Good morning, me again. So, let's talk about the cost of a stroke. I'm not going to talk about time because the amount of time that it takes you to recover from your stroke versus me or anybody else, that's unique. Not going to really talk about lost wages because hopefully you've got insurance for that. A couple of my US subscribers have asked, so what exactly did this cost you? So I've done some research on what it would have cost in the States. So had I been in the United States of America and insured or not, right? Because if you're insured, I'll be quite honest, I don't quite understand the Medicaid, Medicare, Obamacare, copay. I don't understand all that because it's not part of my existence. In the province of Ontario, since I've been alive, healthcare is essentially free, provided you're a permanent resident in the province of Ontario. Granted, if you are visiting Ontario, or I believe if you've been here for only 6 months or less, you're not covered by the provincial healthcare plan because you're not considered a permanent resident. So I'm going to go off my experience being living in Ontario for the majority of my life and at least the last 6 months versus being in the States. So my stroke cost me $45 for an ambulance ride, right? $45 for an ambulance ride. That took me from my place of employment to the hospital I ended up in. My stroke then cost another $38 for television. And then snacks. Oh, and the lovely pajama pants that Dave bought me. Yes, because he bought them, I paid for them. He just went out and completed the transaction. Now then, let's say I'm in the States. From the research I've done, it would have cost about $3,000 for the emergency room visit. Would it cost about $9,100 a day in the hospital. I spent 3 days. Right. The tests, they did 3 rounds of tests at $150 per round of tests. And they did 3 rounds in the CT machine, right? That $1,000 a pop. Well, between emerge, the 3 days. Now, had this been a hemorrhagic stroke, would have been almost $20,000 a day, double, right? Luckily, it was ischemic, so it cost in American dollars at an American hospital $9,100 a day. So if I take $3,000, $9,100 times 3, $6,000 for the TPA drug, right? One drug saves your life, $6,000. So that roughly comes to about $39,450 if I've done my sums correctly. Now that's just my 3 days in a hospital. It's $40,000 if it was an American hospital. Now, how you guys pay for that, I don't know, right? Do you pay half of it? You don't pay half of it? You pay all of it? Some of it? You'll have to figure that out when it comes to your own healthcare plan, because I don't understand all of it. When I go to the States, I was at the SHOT Show in Vegas in January 2018. I was smoking then. I went outside for a cigarette, and the first thing they asked me was like, well, you're a Canadian one. Yep, tell me about healthcare. I'm like, okay. Then they went about our firearms laws. So, now that is just the hospital. 40 grand for the hospital. I've also done additional research on what the first year would look like post-stroke for rehabilitation. So it'd be roughly $5,392 for medication. Now that's an average, right? And rehab is roughly going to be $11,689. So I got $39,450 for the hospital stay for 3 days, right? You just bought a car, or not, right? You then have $53,902 for your medication for the first year, your first 12 months of drugs. And then rehab for the first 12 months will be $11,689. For a grand total of $56,531. Right? Think about it. In the first 12 months after your stroke, between your hospital stay, your medications, which you kind of have to have, or you're going to have another one, and then you also have your rehab, which you kind of have to have, or things aren't getting any better. You're spending just shy of $60,000. Right? Now that will depend on the city you're in and the state you live in. Right? Depending on the state you live in, depending on the city you live in, those numbers can change drastically, even in the same state. So what might be true for Washington State may not be the same for New York State. What might be true for New York State may not be the same for Alaska or Hawaii, right? There are various factors in there. What did my stroke cost me? $45 for an ambulance ride, $30, I think $33.80 or some number like that for television, and because I was, hoping to watch TV, didn't even really use it all that much, to be quite honest. My brain just couldn't focus. And snacks. I don't know what those cost because I didn't save the receipt. Oh, and a lovely pair of pajama pants. Because I hate hospital pajama pants. When it came to drugs, every drug I was prescribed, except for the aspirin, was covered by my benefits through work. So that cost me like $4, $5. So that's 3 drugs that are covered, 1 drug that is not, and that's just aspirin, 81 milligram aspirin. Right? Now, my rehab, covered by OHIP, right? The Ontario Health Insurance Plan. So my hospital stay was covered, minus the $45. Now, have I not been a resident of Ontario? I think the letter from the hospital said my ambulance trip would have been $240. So $45 for an ambulance, $30 for snacks, $5 for drugs, right? A drug, aspirin. And now my rehab completely covered, right? So when I go to see my physiotherapist, my occupational therapist, my speech and language pathologist, right? All of that is covered, right? So what does my stroke cost me? Maybe $100, maybe, if even that. Now then, now we know what the actual cost of a stroke was. Now, in American dollars, the average lifetime cost for an ischemic stroke, this is lifetime, is about $140,000. In fact, $140,048. So you've already burned through $56,000 of that out of your $140,000. So a third is already gone just in the first year for, well, at least in my case, that's a three-day stay in a hospital. Had that hospital stay been longer, again, it's $9,100 per day. So I lucked out. What if I had to be in the hospital for 10 days? There's $90,000, right, for 10 days in a hospital. Mine was covered. So now then, let's talk about benefits. So again, I can't speak to the American experience, but I'll give you an idea what it costs in Canada. So, at least through my experience. So there are 3 ways you can get benefits while you're off of work. One, what they call workers' comp, workman's compensation. So my stroke happened at my employer. Currently, I'm not covered by workman's comp, but had workman's comp determined that yes, my stroke was work-related, I'd be getting benefits via workers' comp. Right? You then have an insurance plan, either through your employer or privately. So you can choose to have private insurance. You don't have to take your employer's healthcare plan. Now I say employer's healthcare plan, what that covers is long-term and short-term disability. It covers things like dental, eye care, medications, paramedical, like your massage therapy or acupuncture or whatever, right? Now then, and then lastly, if you don't have medical insurance that covers benefits for being off, right? not for covering your medicines or your covering your hospital stays, right, or covering doctor visits. Not that. I mean, like, I'm now off work until December. That'll be 6 months, right? How am I getting an income, right? That's what I mean. So, and lastly, if you aren't getting workman's compensation benefits and you don't have a benefit plan through your employer that covers that, you then go on medical employment insurance, which is a government-based plan, right? So granted, none of those situations are going to give you exactly what you made while you're at work, but it should cover your living expenses. Hey, you're going to get frugal, let's be honest here, but you're going to live. So, just on the numbers alone, $56,531. Had I had my stroke in your average American hospital, that's about as cheap as I've found a stroke in the States. And that's with a couple of hours looking on the internet. Right? Think about it. $56,000. That's 3 days in a hospital, a year's worth of rehab, and a year's worth of medication in the States. Was my medication going to cost me $4 and change a bottle of baby aspirin, 81 milligram aspirin, right? Every couple of months. What is my stroke going to cost me? Long term? Coffee on the way to rehab. You know? Coffee on the way home from rehab. Right? So, now I appreciate, and I'm not going to get into the politics of Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, any of that ridiculousness, because I'll be honest, I don't understand it. Right? It's not part of my day in, day out. All I know is every time I go to the States is I make sure I have health care insurance that includes evacuation. So if things go south and I want to come home, it's covered by my health care. Right? It costs a little bit extra, but it is what it is. All I do when I show up to a hospital in Ontario is I show them my government-issued healthcare card, right? If you can't talk, maybe you're going to give them your wallet. It'll have your driver's license in it or another piece of ID with a current address on it. Did they ever ask for a credit card? No. At no point was I asked for by a healthcare administrator or anyone associated officially to the hospital for my credit card. Or financial documentation, or a promissory note, or here's your bill, right? The only time in the hospital I had to produce my bank card was when I went to the gift shop to buy my TV, right? And that was like $33 and change. You know, and I didn't even really use it. Right? So, and snacks. If I bought snacks, I needed to buy snacks. So you can just see there the drastic difference in pricing. Had I lived in the States, who has the ability to come up with $40,000 drop of a hat? Like, literally. There you go. Here's your money. I don't know anyone that has that kind of ability to come up with $40,000 in drop of a hat. Let alone, do you have the wherewithal for $5,000 in medication? I don't know how your drug plans work for medication in the States, right? I don't know, so I'm not going to pretend to know, right? And then your rehab, which is another almost $12,000, right? So that's a fair amount of money to have to come up with, right? For me, free. Yeah, free. Time and energy. That's all it's going to cost me. Time and energy. So let's look at it. $45 for an ambulance ride. We'll round up and say $35 for TV. Right? Well, that's $80, right? $4 or $5. We'll round up, say $5. $5, say every 2 months, right? So what's that? $30? There's $110. for an ambulance ride, TV, and medication. Well, so let's say, including snacks, and the hideous pajama pants, which I love, by the way. Let's say my stroke cost me all of $200. Right? That's what I'm out of pocket. Is $200, maybe. Right? Now, sure, am I not making the same amount of money now that I'm on a leave of absence? Yeah, I'm not making the same scale because your benefits don't cover for exact wage replacement. Right? Do I have to get a bit frugal from time to time? Yeah, I do. But you know what? I didn't sign a promissory note for a car, which I have to pay them, or they're going to ruin my credit and I'm going to go bankrupt and I ended up like maybe homeless because I can't afford my medical bills. Did I wait? Was there any wait time at the hospital? No. So I got into the hospital, I was treated, I was observed, I was tested, and I had the happy save my life drug in an hour and a half, if that. Right? I wasn't really looking at my watch at the time, and don't ask me to remember the times completely because I honestly don't know. So that's what a stroke actually, in dollars and cents, cost in Canada. Right? So for those of you that are wondering, what exactly did this cost you, and you happen to be one of my subscribers in the States, or in a country where maybe you have to pay for some of your health care, which I think is really only the States, that's what it cost. Right? $200. No credit card, no promissory note. The only thing the hospital made me sign was, you're not responsible for my stuff. If it goes missing, we're not paying for it. Right? That's it. So I decided to do a quick video. Not so quick, it's like 16 minutes long, on what a stroke actually costs. So just let that sink in. $56,000 was my experience if I was in the States for the first year. What it cost me, maybe $200. But then again, my first year's not over yet, so we'll see what happens. So if you happen to see what you've been watching here over the last 9 weeks, please like, share, subscribe with your friends, make comments. Starting to see comments, good thing. Means you guys are actually paying attention. There'll be a test later. And if you happen to see either in yourself or someone around you the signs or symptoms of a stroke, that being facial droop, slurred speech, stuttering, inappropriate word usage for situation or context, inability to smile equally effectively or at all, inability to raise both arms equally effectively or at all, general body weakness, weakness on one side, inability to stand unaided, please immediately move that person into a position of comfort and dial 911. Something so simple can save a life.